I dealt with a lot of infidelity in my first marriage,
Ooh.
um, a lot of body hate, both verbally and there were times where my body had black and blue marks on them, asking me when I would lose this.
Kelly escaped the pain of her first marriage and embarked on a journey of self-love and finally found the man of her dreams. But instead of her happily ever after, she found new challenges.
I guess the most painful was that I learned that my husband had a low sex drive.
Mm.
And coming off of infidelity and coming off of so much body hate, it felt really personal. It felt like it was me. I was I it I was the cause of this low sex drive.
It was beginning to feel heartbreakingly familiar.
And I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I cannot feel this rejected anymore. Like, I've told myself I'm done with that. That part of my life is in my history. I've worked so hard on going through so much trauma work and so much therapy and physically changing my body, and like I'm back in the same spot.
She was at a breaking point when, out of the blue, a neighbor handed her my book.
Even though she didn't know what she was giving me, I knew what my marriage really looked like behind closed doors. And I was desperate to make sure that my second marriage was going to be a success. And I didn't hesitate for 1 second. I started binging on your podcast that day.
What she did next changed everything.
My marriage is, uh, honestly, it's the most beautiful, intimate, loving, respectful, connecting relationship.
My guest Kelly was experiencing gaslighting, neglect, and stonewalling in her second marriage, which was starting to feel like a repeat of her first marriage. Not to mention, her husband had low sex drive. But then Kelly jumped into all 6 intimacy skills at once. And today she's experiencing a love she never dreamed possible with the same man. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Kelly, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. This is so exciting. I can't wait to hear your whole story.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real honor to be here.
Well, I want to hear about your first marriage because it sounded like things were pretty bad in that situation. So what was going wrong in your first marriage?
Yeah. So, in my first marriage, there was a lot of pain. Um, I came into the marriage with a lot of trauma regarding body image, and I was extremely obese and overweight, something I dealt with my entire childhood. In fact, growing up, I constantly heard that nobody would love me in my current body. And I led myself to such a situation where that proved the narrative was quite true. Um, I dealt with a lot of infidelity in my first marriage,
Ooh.
um, a lot of body hate, both verbally and there were times where my body had black and blue marks on them, asking me when I would lose this. Um, I was often told that it was embarrassing to be seen in public. And there was just a lot of pain, a lot of pain. I had 2 children in that marriage, which are my blessings and my joy out of those really painful, years. It was 10 painful years of a lot of lack of love and, just feeling terribly abused for my body and infidelity. And there was a lot of pain,
And,
a
and,
lot of pain there.
and black and blue marks, I mean, that's physical abuse. No question about it, right? From being
Yeah.
asked and along with the verbal abuse of being asked and then infidelity. Like it sounds miserable. No one should have to go through that. It sounds awful.
Yeah. It was from the darkest times of my life.
Gosh, sorry to hear that you had to go through that, Kelly.
Yeah,
And then, so you divorced.
I did. I did not have any access to Laura Doyle or any skills at the time. And of course, none of it was me, right?
Well,
So it just seemed like the only option at that time was to remove myself and protect myself and my children. And I got divorced. Yes.
which also is heartbreaking. No matter what you're escaping, there's a lot of trauma in that too. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds awful. All right. Well, then what happened?
So I got divorced and I was single for 5 years. In those 5 years, I went on quite a journey. I threw myself into heavy trauma therapy where I faced my demons and all my traumas, my body image was a huge focus on it. And for the first time in my life, I started a journey of self love and self respect. And I began to love myself enough. And I lost over 100 pounds on my own. And at once I, started to love myself enough and enter the dating pool, the man of my dreams kind of came my way. Um, he was just everything and more that I ever could have dreamed of. And we dated. We dated not even for so long. It just was so apparent that he was Mr. Right pretty early on. And shortly after, I was engaged to be married.
Awesome. So you know what you know. You knew pretty quick.
Yeah,
Oh, it
he
sounds
was
romantic and
definitely
sweet.
my knight in shining armor and my Mr. Right.
Wow. So, okay, so you got engaged quick, got married, and you lived happily ever after.
I wish I could say so. Things definitely got bumpy pretty early on.
Oh, they did. Okay. What was happening?
Yeah. So, um, in the early days of my marriage, um, I was met with, I would say, four issues that kept just coming up and repeating themselves. That had me really devastated and afraid of repeat situations that I was like, devastated. So some things that I started to deal with now in the second perfect marriage um, were very, very painful. Um, I guess the most painful was that I learned that my husband had a low sex drive.
Mm.
And coming off of infidelity and coming off of so much body hate, it felt really personal. It felt like it was me. I was the cause of this low sex drive. I didn't really understand what it really meant even to live with like what does that mean? We're all kind of taught that men like to have sex and need to have sex and I was sure it was me. It was extremely painful. I felt rejected. I felt not like I wasn't desirable. I felt like I was in this place again where my body and I just wasn't good enough.
Mm.
And it was extremely, extremely painful. Extremely painful.
It's a lot of rejection. Yeah,
Yeah.
just assuming like all men have high sex drive. If only you were desirable enough to want to have
Yeah.
sex.
Yeah.
That's the.
I definitely believed it
Mm.
was me. And it was so painful. Really, really painful.
It sounds painful. It sounds awful.
Yeah.
Kind of scary because how are you ever going to fix that? Yeah,
Yeah. I
you've already lost
was,
all this weight, and here's Yeah, I'm looking at you right now. You're so beautiful, actually. So it's like it's a little incongruent, but the listeners can't hear you, so I just want to say that this is a kid. It's a feeling that was that you had that felt the pain was very real, but the cause of it maybe not so real. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But all right, so you're feeling rejected every day, which can
Yeah.
make it expensive, I think.
Yes. And on top of that, you're told so many times, especially going into a second marriage, one of the things you need to have a successful relationship is date night once a week.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
these are one of the things that you are told it needs to be on your calendar. And I was not getting that. And I was begging for it along with the sex. Now I was begging for date nights and I couldn't understand why am I not getting these date nights? Like it was just another thing to make me feel like, okay, so he doesn't want to have sex with me and he doesn't want to spend time with me. Like what's wrong with me? Or why doesn't he want me? Who doesn't want to go and spend an hour out of the house, kid free, alone with their wife? Like I it was so hurtful, so painful. I was begging and why didn't he want to do it for me? Why wasn't I getting those date nights?
How are you trying to get them to begin with?
I was I was begging for them. Can you please take me out? Can we please have a date night? I so many therapists recommend it. So many, you read it. It's like you're supposed to. This is something you're supposed to have. And it's something that was ingrained in my mind. Like we're supposed to do this and he's supposed to want to do it for me.
And the fact that he wasn't doing it meant what? Like
It just
probably,
like he didn't want to spend time with me. He didn't love me. He didn't enjoy my company. It
and your
was,
marriage is at risk, probably.
yeah.
Like
Oh
you
yeah.
could end up getting another divorce if he wasn't going to do date
Yeah,
night.
it was terrifying because
It is terrifying.
yeah, I was like, did I make a mistake? Did I did I marry someone who doesn't really love me, who doesn't actually want to spend time with me? Uh, it was it was devastating coming off of a failed marriage. It was really
Yeah,
devastating.
totally
Yeah.
get it. Oof. Okay, so we got two really painful, terrifying things. What else was going on?
Yeah. Oh, we also had over the weekend, my husband definitely enjoyed his wine. Um, I never believed him to be an alcoholic. He was always, he didn't drink during the week or anything of that sort. But his reaction to wine just always seemed really cold and distant, more aggressive. And he's like a gentle guy. My husband is a really gentle, soft person. So that was the reaction to that wine every weekend. Like my soft, gentle man just turned distant and more aggressive, and just the warmth just kind of went out the window. And I'm someone that really needs a lot of warmth and someone that thrives off of warmth. And um, it, it was just, it was really painful. Sometimes, it would make him so mellow. He would just fall asleep in middle of the family dinner to leave me to, the kids on my own. And it was really, it was painful and hurtful and upsetting to me how he can just, you know, continue to have these, you know, glasses of wine while just, acting cold, distant, and even falling asleep on me, leaving me with
Yeah.
everybody.
It was like he's making the choice to abandon you and leave
Yeah.
you all the responsibility. It's just lonely.
Yeah. It was really lonely.
Yeah. Sounds awful. Okay, what
Yeah.
else?
Okay. And I think the last thing that was going on for me at the time was, we had gotten married. He had two kids from his previous marriage, and I have two kids from my previous marriage. And because I have full custody and he had shared custody, it made the most sense for me to pick up and move from New Jersey, pick up my life and move to New York to him. And, he was all settled in New York. He had his job, his friends, his things. And, me, I moved in. My kids had to go to new schools. I had to find a new job. I didn't have friends. I had so much family where I came from. I never alone. I was working in an office with 20 plus women, built-in friends every day. And then I moved here and it was like his responsibility to make sure I was happy and to make sure I was settled. And it just felt like we got married, we moved, he continued in his routine and with his people. And I just felt so alone. And it felt like he didn't care. And he was supposed to help me find a new job and he was supposed to help me make my friends. And, it was so scary to just pick up and move, and he falls back into routine and I was on my own.
Yeah. And unmoored. All those friends are gone. It's a self-care challenge, right? To get to move and have to start from scratch with everything in life, jobs and
Yeah.
friends. Yeah, that sounds stressful.
Yeah. So all of this going on, all of these four just major issues all at once it was really painful, lonely, and scary.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And you have a blended family, which I've heard can add additional layers of challenge into a marriage. So,
Definitely can. Yes.
okay. Okay. So, was there a point where you thought, okay, I don't think I can go on like this? This is just too painful and scary.
Yeah. So there was one night where, again, I got into this conversation with my husband about this whole sex drive piece. I didn't understand what it meant. The only option to me was that it was a me problem, that he was rejecting me. I didn't understand. He even tried to explain to me that this was something that had been existing in all his previous relationships, that I wasn't the first one that he was experiencing this with. He really tried to convey that. But to me, I didn't understand. Like, you're a guy, I'm a woman. What is what does that mean? I tried to seek out professionals to understand what a low sex drive is. I would Google it, but I just didn't. It was just so painful, and I was attacking him and really coming at him that he didn't. I was telling him, "You don't find me attractive. It's the only explanation here. There's no other way to slice this. If you found me attractive, you'd want to be having sex with me." It was 1 + 1 = 2, and it just wasn't adding up for me. And the conversation got so painful. I think on both our ends, it was just so painful. But I was just brought back to those days where I was crying in the bathroom on my floor, just feeling so alone and so rejected. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I cannot feel this rejected anymore. Like, I've told myself I'm done with that. That part of my life is in my history. I've worked so hard on going through so much trauma work and so much therapy and physically changing my body, and I'm back in the same spot. I I literally told my husband, it was the middle of the night, I'm getting in the car, I'm driving to Jersey, I'm going to the people that love me because I don't feel loved here. And I actually did get in my car. I drove a few blocks. I didn't quite make it to Jersey. I couldn't leave him. I couldn't get myself to leave him. I really love this man. I pulled over on the side of the road and I just sat in my car and I cried and I cried, but I knew I wasn't leaving New York. But I also wasn't going back there. I just didn't know what I was doing. But eventually I drove back to my house where my husband was, but I couldn't bring myself to get into bed with him. I felt like I felt like I can't do this to myself again. but I didn't know the answers. And so I went to sleep in my son's room that night. Um, I couldn't, I just thought I didn't know how to move forward, and I couldn't move forward with him, and I couldn't move forward without him. And so this just felt like, you know what? Tonight, my son had a second bed in his room, and that's where I slept. And I set myself an alarm for the morning before my son gets up so he shouldn't see that I was there and start asking questions as to why I slept in his room, put him through the trauma of, are my parents fighting again? Um, and yeah, I think that was like that night really was the moment where I knew, like, I can't do this anymore. The next day, I called my therapist and I scheduled an appointment for her to meet with the both of us, because I was like, I, I can't go on like this anymore.
It sounds really dark, really devastating place to be. And how was he responding when you were saying, I'm going back to the people that love me?
He felt very threatened by it. He warned me, you better think twice, like, before you do this. Like, are you sure this is what you want to do and make a statement like this? This is something you can't come back from. I think it was a very threatening thing to hear. And I think he didn't, give me an ultimatum or warn me or tell me, like, but I felt like it. It felt like you better think twice before you do such a bold move like this and, leave our house. I think it felt really threatening to him.
Yeah, totally. All right. So you have this therapist and you're going to go get like couples counseling, maybe. Is that right?
Yeah, I was gonna attempt at least to, you know, he's gonna tell my therapist is gonna tell him, like, you can't do this anymore. Or, so I thought, like, she's gonna fix this because I couldn't.
She's going to make him have sex drive, higher sex drive.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right. So, yeah. All right. So he agrees to go.
Yeah. So she actually lived quite far. We went. Um, it was pretty rough in there. It the conversation we had the night before just taking place now in front of a third party,
Mm.
um, where I was attacking him again for, you know, telling him he doesn't find me attractive, and him telling me, no, I do. You're the most beautiful. This has nothing to do with you. This is physically something that I have. This is, really nothing to do with you. And me just, again, 1 + 1 = 2. Like, I was telling him his thoughts, what's going on for him. Like, what does it mean your body doesn't work? Like, you're a guy, I'm a woman. It just, and we left pretty miserable from that appointment.
So no progress was made. It doesn't sound like this wasn't.
No, I think we left in the same place that we came.
The therapist was not able to fix him to make you
No.
happy. Okay. Oh, the pain is so real though. And then I don't know, like, did you feel even more hopeless? Like, was it just that one trip to the therapist or how many
So
times?
in that same appointment, we also brought up the whole date night situation that also became just a huge thing. And I guess I felt progress in that department. Like, I felt like he was gonna start incorporating more date nights. My therapist got him to understand, he told me he hates planning. That's what came out of the therapist, is that date nights are very daunting to him because it means he needs to plan, and he's not a planner. So he just gets scared off by the idea of a date night. And that's what stands between him and the date night. And I said to him, well, if you love me enough, you'll work it out. You'll figure out how to fight this challenge of I don't know, go to Google, ask your friends, like if you love me enough and you truly want to find time with me, you'll find a way. And needless to say, there was some sort of commitment after that therapy session in that regard, but the date nights didn't come.
He was just saying it to get out of the situation he was in. He didn't.
Yeah, or he wanted to, but then whatever it was that was stopping him just didn't really happen. And in terms of the low sex drive, I just left feeling defeated. Like, I got myself back into a situation where I can't be loved physically again.
Wow. And it's forever, basically. Like this is unfixable. It's
Yeah.
hopeless. Oh, so dark, so heavy.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, a miracle happened. I don't know how else to describe it other than a miracle. I got a knock on my door the day I was moving from New Jersey to New York. In the beginning of our marriage, we were kind of in both places. My kids were finishing off their school year in New Jersey, and his kids were in New York. So we were back and forth a lot. And when my kids finished school, I got a knock on my door from a neighbor in New Jersey the day I was moving to go to New York. And I call her my guardian angel because she said to me, she's like, I don't want to overstep. And, this is completely not my business, but I just want to tell you that I really care about you. And I know that you're, just got into a second marriage and you're moving. And I've been playing this back and forth in my head. Should I not? But I don't want to have regrets. And so I just want to share with you that the key to my successful marriage um, has been Laura Doyle. And she's like, I just want to give that to you. She has a book called The Empowered Wife and a podcast. And she's like, just like, if you're willing, I don't know anything about your marriage. And I just know that if I wanted to give a gift to any newly married woman, this is what it would be. And so you're moving, and I just want to leave you with a gift. And she's like, I hope it's okay.
So sweet.
And yeah. And Laura, I binged on the podcast like right away. I don't even think I waited a day.
You were open to it. You were like, okay, yeah, I want to listen to this. It didn't put you off.
Yeah, you should know, I kind of heard about your name in the past. Um, but the way that, the way that people were talking about it, and at first I was single at the time, first of all, so it wasn't so relevant to me. But even then, people were talking about the surrendered, and, they were not spinning it to be positive. But when I heard it from this woman, I said, you know what? I'm going to approach this like it's the first time I heard it, because I want my own experience with this. And I know this woman. I've eaten in her home. I've I have no reason not to give this a chance and my marriage a chance. And even though she didn't know what she was giving me, I knew what my marriage really looked like behind closed doors. And I was desperate to make sure that my second marriage was going to be a success. And I didn't hesitate for 1 second. I started binging on your podcast that day.
I mean, I love that. You were so open and willing, even though you'd heard that it was not such good information, it sounds like. So that's pretty cool. And I love that your neighbor and your friend, she found a way to share it with you so that you could hear it too, right? Yeah, I see why you call
Yeah.
her your guardian angel. So, all right. So you start listening to the podcast, and then what's going through your mind as you're listening to the podcast? Like, what came up for you?
Laura, what's going through my mind is a very humbling experience. Um, I just started to see myself in these women, and in before they had the skills, and how they speak about um, how they were, you know, how they realized, looking back, how they were showing up in their marriages to contribute to what was going on in their marriages. And I really started to see myself. Um, I didn't realize how disrespectful I was. I don't think I knew what respect even really meant or what it really looked like. I thought, helping a husband and, you know, was what you're supposed to do. And what do you mean? I was being such a good wife. And I realized how many times I cut off my husband mid sentence. I realized how I wasn't trusting. I realized how I was really disrespectful. Um, it was hard to hold up that mirror. It was hard to acknowledge what part of this was on me. I think as I was listening to it, I realized that I had an amazing man in front of me, and I was not giving him the respect that he deserved. And I knew that I was accountable here. I needed to
Wow.
be accountable here.
Even though
Um,
he was like, didn't have the sex drive, wouldn't take you on date nights, was drinking too much wine, like wasn't making your move, the transition that you wanted it to be. He wasn't like, even all of that, this was part of this was on you.
yeah, definitely. I mean, the piece of him not making me happy, I slowly realized it's my responsibility to make myself happy. I was putting so much on him to make me happy throughout the move. I wasn't even I it was didn't even dawn on me that I needed to make myself happy. I needed to find space, to have true self-care and to honor myself and to make myself happy. I was sitting here blaming him for not making me happy in this move. And all the while, it's my happiness is my responsibility. And that that was very new for me. And I didn't realize just how much I was complaining to him, which is so disrespectful, and criticizing him. And it was, yeah, I realized that, his actions are his actions, but that I wasn't creating a space for a man to really show up for me. I really
Ooh,
wasn't.
wow. Okay, I love the way you say that. So you started to see that you were contributing to these breakdowns that you were having, even though it seemed like it was really all him. So what did you start to do differently than what you had
So,
been doing?
Laura, I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of girl. So, um, your podcasts are so filled with skills in each one. And I just kind of went for I just grabbed onto anything I could. And I really went at all six skills, like at the same time. Um, like all of them. I realized I realized I was lacking in all of them. And I realized that I just dove in head first and really tackled them all as I found opportunities to do so.
Wow. I mean, didn't you feel any resistance to that? Didn't you feel like, wait, I'm going to apologize, or like, didn't you feel like some of this is pretty stupid?
So apologies is probably one of the hardest. It was probably one of the hardest ones to incorporate. And but I knew, first of all, after I tried it once or twice, which was super hard, the results just kept me coming back for more. The way he responded to an apology, the Laura Doyle way versus ways I've done it in the past, um, it was like, whoa, there's no comeback. There's just like thank you so like wow, thank you so much for like it was so received versus fought. And I was like, wow, like if I need to have humility to give this apology, which is if anybody were to ask me, what you need the most to truly work the Laura Doyle skills, for me, it's a large dose of humility, um, which has become very worthwhile um, for the sake of my intimacy. But that's once I dove into this humility and just saw how far my husband is such a forgiving man. Um, all it all it takes is a genuine Laura Doyle apology, and his heart just softens. It
Mm.
used to be, I would give like a not full apology or not so accountable, really, truly, but like yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry I made you feel that way, and it would be like, it just, it was never received. It was like, there was always more fighting that followed those apologies. But when I give a Laura Doyle apology with no and, if, or buts, it's, I am sorry I was disrespectful and I am just accountable with no excuse. This is what I did. It just goes so far, Laura. It makes my husband feel so seen, so understood, so validated. And he knows that I know what I've done to hurt him, that he can truly soften up.
Wow. Well, that is extraordinary humility, Kelly. Like, I can't believe that you were in this much pain and kind of despair, really. And then you decided to apologize to him for being disrespectful. And then you got this amazing response. Um, that is pretty exciting. I mean, it must have felt pretty powerful to get that response.
Yeah. Yeah. There was nothing more that I wanted than to have this marriage be successful after going through a divorce, which is absolute hell. Um, it was, it was, it was something that I couldn't bear to go through again. And I was willing to fight for this. And so, like I said, it required a lot of humility to do what I needed to and to be bright and not right sometimes. But Laura, the results and the relationship I have is just, it speaks for itself.
What do you remember anything specifically that you apologized for?
Yes. Yes, definitely. Um, I apologize for speaking derogatory, like negatively about his children in moments of weakness of mine. I apologized for walking out on him that night.
Wow.
Um, I apologize for all the times I interrupted him mid sentence because I was just smarter than him and knew better. I apologize for all the times I was controlling and told him how to speak to his ex-wife or how to discipline his children. Um, it was in just it. By the way, it was really a 2-month period from the time that I got married to the time that I got the skills. In those 2 months, I had quite an apology to make. I was I was quite disrespectful with, uh, yeah,
Wow. So accountable. I love that. It's very appealing. I can see why your husband loves it too. But what would you say to a woman who says, "But what about him apologizing? Like, when is he going to apologize to you? Like, he did a lot of things to hurt you."
yeah. Um, I would say to her that staying on my side of the street and always showing up dignified and respectful has always led him to mirror my behaviors. And I've I've gotten so many beautiful apologies myself. Um, and I've just learned that my page is my page. I don't need to carry the net of his page and his behaviors and his actions. Those are truly his. But I will say that his behaviors and his actions are so beautiful today, the way I see them, that it's it's so worthwhile. It's really, he's such an incredible man. I am the lucky one in this relationship. And when we just allow for them to show up in in such a beautiful way, when we give them that platform of emotional safety and respect, that humility of, foregoing what the way I felt I was treated has become so worth it. And today, honestly, I first of all, a lot of those issues are no longer issues. I don't even know that they ever were. Um, but it becomes incredibly worthwhile when you have the gift of true respect, love, and connection, to be able to have that humility and put those feelings aside for a little bit to fight for what I wanted.
Wow. Wow. Well, that sounds wonderful. So, well, tell me, so what about getting what you want out of this marriage too, though? Like you wanted to feel desired, and you wanted to not be left alone with the kids while he drank wine, and like, what about those things?
Yeah. So, I think, Laura, I think you teach us to not squash our feelings and our needs. For anybody who has this misconception of an empowered wife, we do not just squash our feelings. We express desires that inspire. We dig deep into vulnerability, and we also put on new perspectives, as you like to say, and come from a place of gratitude. So, it's interesting. I do not have date nights in my marriage today. I
Yeah,
don't.
right.
But I do. I look at every opportunity that my husband asks me to spend time with me, whether it's going on a walk, whether it's going to the grocery store together, whether it's to come watch a movie with me. He doesn't like planning, but I still get so many opportunities for date nights and intimacy. When I started working the skills, I would ask myself, why do I want date nights so badly? Forget what everybody tells you you're supposed to have. Why do I want it? And I said, I want to feel desired and like he wants to spend time with me. I do so often. I get that so often. So I call all these opportunities of, him driving in the car with me and holding my hand, or him asking me to go on a walk with him, or, hey babe, can you come with me to the grocery store? I just want to spend time with you. Or, I'd love to watch something with you. He's seeking me out left and right on the daily. I mean, I get mini dates all day. Sometimes I'll even get a message when he's at work. Hey babe, you want to bring me lunch so we could like spend time midday, So I don't have date nights that I thought I needed to have, but I am having all the date nights that I know I need to have today. And it
Oh,
doesn't look like your typical date night, but I am more than okay with it. I no longer need those type of date nights because I am so satisfied with my mini dates I get throughout my days.
wow. So it's not once a week. It sounds like it's like a bunch of times a week, and
It's
sometimes
all the
he
time.
it's all the time. It's every day. Okay. And so, but what about he's taking you out to dinner? He got a babysitter. You don't.
You know, to me, what I really needed wasn't that dinner. I needed to feel desired and to feel like he wanted to spend time with me. And through just changing my perspectives, I don't need to be taken out to dinner. I mean,
It's not your
maybe it would
desire.
be nice, but
Okay.
I need my husband to want to spend time with me. And
Ah,
I get that plenty. So my date night it could look like it's in the grocery store, and it could look, like we're going for a walk on the street. And it is so meaningful to me and so beautiful.
it's
And I
intimate.
am perfectly satisfied with my mini date nights. We have 4 kids together and it's busy. And all those little times that we get to sneak away and just enjoy each other's company, even if it's doing regular day-to-day life, responsibilities, is so beautiful to me. We make those meaningful.
That's awesome. So, what about your self-care? Like you mentioned, so you moved, you had no friends, no job. What did you start doing to make yourself happy?
Yeah, so I realized how much I love nature and water specifically. Just it really grounds me and makes me just feel so light and happy. So I started discovering different parks in the area. I would travel 45 minutes one day, go find a new spot. I found so many parks and different lakes in the area now. Like I feel like I'm a maven of the water in my area because that's what I really love to do. Um I also, tapped into my vulnerability and uh reached out to different people and would go for a lunch date with somebody who I met once or twice, and I would like reach back out to them and get vulnerable and then have like an amazing lunch date with them. I realized that I could FaceTime my family from afar, who I used to like love hanging out with and spending time with, and just getting to see them and connect with them. I love connecting with people. So that's definitely a huge self care for me. I volunteered at a community place to lead community functions, and I am now the leader of that. I've created self care for myself in that regard, and we host events, and it's just I get to see. I gotten to meet so many women that way. So I've really taken that part of my life and self care into my own hands, and I have created, quite the social scene for myself. Tomorrow, I have 3 friends coming over. I hired a manicurist to my home, and we are all getting manicures together at the comfort of my own home with friends that I met here, and I'll order in lunch, and it's going to be a girls' spa day at home. I am really excited.
That's awesome. So you're definitely making yourself happy, it sounds like.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how does your husband respond to that?
He is so supportive of it. I always say for myself, self-care is the driver of all the skills because I find that when my cup is filled, I can way more easily tap into the other skills. When my cup is empty, they are all so much more difficult to do. So in a way, for me, self-care is almost the most important. Some people feel like it's like so self-indulgent or, selfish. For me, it's selfish if I do not do my self-care, and it is so selfless if I do. My husband realizes that. He is so
That's quite the
supportive.
flip right there. Let's go through that again. So it's selfish if you don't do your self-care, and it's selfless if you do. Like
Absolutely.
opposite land.
Absolutely. If I don't do my self-care, my respect is not where I want it to be. It's so much harder to come from a place of gratitude. Just it's all the skills are much harder to really tap into when I am not filled, So it's extremely important for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. What about the gratitude skill? Like, how did you bring that into? Because I know you did all of them all at once.
Yes.
So
So the gratitudes, I started sending my husband a very specific text every single day. And I would, it became very cute with emojis and it became like an official thing. It's gratitude time, my babe. And I would list off, 3 things that he's done for me during the day. It could be from something simple, like taking out the trash, to something more major. And I would attach to each gratitude how it made me feel because I've heard that on a podcast before and it was so powerful to me. It's not just thanks for doing the dishes. It's, I would attach a feeling to it because he gets to feel how successful he is at making me happy. when I include that. And I'm writing these for me, truly. It's for me to constantly be in the mindset of gratitude, but it's a bonus that he gets to receive them from me and to just feel how grateful I am. And so I always include, thank you for doing X, Y, and Z. It makes me feel X, Y, and Z. And sometimes there's such a great spot there to include an SFP, a self-fulfilling prophecy. I always find, if it's something that was more rare, that is not done so often, I use that opportunity to just let him know, you know, you are such a generous man or whatever it may be to, I make my gratitudes very full, and it's a huge part of my day, and my husband loves getting them.
I bet he does. I bet he gets excited. That's not a text he's putting off to read later. He's like, oh,
No.
it's gratitude time. Let me see what I did right to make my wife happy.
Yeah, there was one day I missed sending it, and he's like, I missed my gratitudes today.
So cute. So sweet. So he's loving it. So, okay. So, and you talked about vulnerability. We've talked about gratitude. And what about relinquishing control? Was that an issue at your house? Like,
I mean, yeah, like I spoke about in the beginning with the drinking, with
oh
his
yeah.
drinking on the weekends. I used to be, I used to be quite vocal about how he was behaving because of his drinking. Once I started the skills, I slowly realized that I needed to duct tape. I needed to relinquish control of this. It was clearly led by the fear of, that he won't be warm or he won't love me. And he of course does love me even in those moments. And it's his page and his choice. And I stopped saying anything. And Laura, it's just so it's really the skills work so miraculously because today um, he does not really drink on the weekends anymore. And it's not because I've said anything, because from the moment I got your skills, I have stopped saying a word. But he has come to me and told me, I really don't like how I show up when I drink too much wine. And
Oh
he,
my,
I'm
like
telling you,
you
this
always
man,
wanted him to, right? Like he said exactly to you, like, that's your dream. Like you want him to, okay, wow.
yeah.
And he just came
And
up with it himself.
today, he really doesn't drink much. And when he does, I just say, this is his self-care and he's enjoying with his friends or whatever it is. And I'm okay. It really doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. The wine drinking has gone down so much. Um, it's just miraculous that when, you take a back seat and you believe in them and you trust in your husband and you believe in their ability to show up as their best selves, they do. They really, really do.
You're experiencing, he's being his best self.
Yes. Yes. He is amazing.
Wow. Okay. And then what about this? What about the issue of him not being sexually attracted or not having high sexual drive?
Yeah. So it turns out that a man who feels really respected, um, it wasn't a sex drive issue. This was a respect issue. Um, it is, it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue.
Non-issue? It's a non-issue.
It's a non-issue. This man who has been told he should take medications or whatever else he's been suggested in the past, he doesn't need any of that. He just needs a respectful wife. And I'm very well taken care of. And there's a lot of PI, and it's very miraculous that all this man needed was a large dose of respect. And this issue is non-existent in my relationship at all.
Incredible. Incredible. So you feel desired. You feel hot now.
Oh yeah. I feel very desired. I feel very hot. I feel very attractive.
You might be like a supermodel now.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. How exciting. I mean, that must have been such that would a breakthrough, right? That was okay. And so,
Yeah.
and you were married 2 months before you got any skills. So, and this is a big dramatic change that you made in your relationship and how you were showing up as a person. Has your husband seen the difference in you? Has he said anything about that?
Oh yeah. Uh, I think a month after the skills, my husband said to me, um, babe, you need to become a Laura Doyle coach. You, you need to become a Laura Doyle coach. How do we make this happen? Where do we sign you up? What we have, like everyone needs to have this. And you need to share this with the world because you make me the happiest man. I feel so respected. I've never been happier in my life. Like we need to make this happen. In that moment, I knew that the skills were doing everything that they needed to be doing.
Yeah. So, okay. And so, what is your marriage like now?
Oh, my marriage is, uh, honestly, it's the most beautiful, intimate, loving, respectful, connecting relationship. And, um, it's just, it's, he's the man of my dreams. He's always been. I was the one who needed some changing. And, we are growing our family. I am expecting, um, a baby. It's really exciting. Um, it's just, he's everything I could ask for and more. Um, every single day, I just feel so much gratitude to have such a loving. It just feels like his mission in life is to make me happy and to support me and to be there for me. Um, there's nothing he won't do to just at any opportunity he has, from the smallest things of pouring my drink at every meal to the biggest things of, you know, in my previous pregnancies, in my previous marriage, I went to all my doctor appointments alone. Um, just last week, I had my anatomy scan, and I had my husband sitting next to me. That was like, wow. I'm sure a lot of people might take that for granted, but coming from where I was to where I am, I'm just so grateful for all the actions he's willing to do to be there for me in so many different ways. He's just incredible, so generous, so giving, so loving, so warm. He's my hero. He's my everything. And it's just beautiful. My kids are so lucky to experience what it really looks like to be in a loving home, after a failed marriage and experiencing, unfortunately, quite the opposite. It's such a gift to be able to, show them. My parents were over recently for a weekend, and one of my daughter, um, she came to me and she asked me a question if she could have something, and I said, "Did you ask Daddy yet?" And because we are very careful not to contradict one another in our parenting, and I always want to respect and not override what he would say. And she looked at my mother and she said, "In this house, you can't parent shop." And I was like, wow. Like the the fact that they see how much respect there is from the top and how much love there is, it just there's just so many gifts all around, and to be able to be growing our family together, there's just really, really blessed.
Wow. And you just seem to radiate confidence, Kelly. You seem so secure. Like, this is going to be a good marriage. for the rest of your lives. Like,
Yes,
is that fair to say? I mean,
it
you,
is. The other night we were watching a movie and we were looking, and there was like an old couple on the screen, and my husband was just laughing and saying, they're so cute, they're so cute. And I was like, I think that's gonna be us one day. He's like, yeah. He's like, that is definitely gonna be us. I'm gonna still be telling you how beautiful you are, and just still like loving you the way that we're looking at this couple, and they were an old loving couple. And he's like, yeah, absolutely, like that's gonna be us. So I have so much hope, and I know so long as I continue to work these skills every day and not become complacent, then I will have, you know, the marriage of my dreams, which I already do have.
you know how to keep it that way. It's not luck or chance or
Yeah.
this is you, your own, using your own power to make it the
Yes,
marriage that you want.
absolutely. There's a
Wow.
reason we are the empowered wives.
So inspiring. Congratulations on what you've created here. It sounds like you have what everybody wants in their marriage. And it's the biggest accomplishment. What would you advise somebody like a woman who says, like she's stuck where you were, like my husband drinks wine on the weekends and he has a little sex drive and he won't take me on a date night. And she wants what you have now where he's taking her on like he's wanting to spend time with her on many dates all day long. And he says like, that's us, that cute old couple. That's going to be us someday. I'll still be telling you how beautiful. And that the sex drive is such that she's pregnant and they're growing their family. Like, where should she start? What's your tip?
Um, so I think I would return the favor of my guardian angel. I think I would pay it forward and tell this woman that whatever it is that you feel like you don't have, you could have, and so much more, and in such an empowering, beautiful way. And I would lead her to the six intimacy skills, which have changed the trajectory of my entire life, of my kids' life, for generations. And I I would tell her to start listening to the podcast. For me, hearing from other women and feeling so much less alone, and just, you know, the hope that I got, um, was where the magic was for me. I listened to, at least a podcast a day for the first 30 days. At least it was part of my recipe. It was part of what I needed. Um, so I would tell this woman, you can have all that and so much more. Take a dose of humility, listen to the podcast, and you could have it all.
Wow. And now you're part of that. You're part of that prescription you'd be giving her because you're on the podcast doing your own miracle. So I love that. What would you say to Kelly if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
I would give her a big hug. First of all, I think it's so important for us to forgive our mistakes of our past that we didn't know.
You didn't know.
And after that, I would, you know, tell her that there is hope, there is a way forward, there is so much beauty that lies ahead of you. There's a whole beautiful life ahead of you if you stick to the six intimacy skills. You could just you could have the beautiful life you want for yourself independently, for you and your husband as a unit, for your children. These skills just really impact it all. And um, I would, hand over the same guardian angel message to myself if I could.
And what about you shared a little bit about how painful your first marriage was, and it sounds awful. How do you see that now, or do you see things any differently?
Absolutely. I believe I was a contributor to the failure of that marriage, which I would have never been able to say out loud. prior to these skills. It's actually quite hard to do even right now in this moment, because I felt like such a victim that it's actually takes humility in this moment. But I truly believe that I wasn't the respectful wife that I present as today, and that I was a part of the failed marriage.
Wow. But you were a victim. You were verbally, physically abused, cheated on. You were a victim.
I was also a contributor to create a space of being victimized. I didn't create a space of respect. I didn't show up as the dignified, respectful wife that I am today. And nobody should be treated the way I was treated, but he was also treated disrespectfully.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. That's next level accountability. And but it sounds like it's kind of crucial for you to have what you have now, to own your contribution to the things that you suffered through in the past.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, I'm very impressed by that. It's very moving, actually.
Thank you, Laura.
And I'm very moved and impressed with the family you've created. In fact, I'd like to give you my Best Wife Award. Kelly, congratulations.
Oh,
You so deserve this great, esteemed award because you've accomplished what seems like it's impossible, I think, to most people. And not only that, but you've also shared it with all of us. So you've touched so many lives by telling your story so vulnerably and so personally. And you've affected the lives of, your two children, his two children, this baby that's on its way. You've created a beautiful family, where there might have been a different outcome. And for this, I can think of no greater accomplishment, nothing that I esteem more than becoming an empowered wife who can do all that. And so it's my pleasure to congratulate you.
thank you. Thank you so much, Laura.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for sharing the whole story with us. It's going to leave me with a spring in my step for, at least the next couple of days.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on and giving me the opportunity to share my story and hopefully give another wife the hope and strength that we all needed at some point to be able to take these skills and to take, and to become empowered. So
Yeah, great job.
thank you.
For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.